vision, leadership, workplace-related topics. The Voices of Victory podcast show. Subscribe today. Let's go.
Vision, leadership, self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision,
Voices of Victory.
leadership,
Voices of Victory.
workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
All right, and welcome back to Voices of Victory podcast. I am your host, Mario Di Leone, and today we are going to do something very special. It's my job to help as many people as I possibly can out there, and I want to share a very particular technique that I use, and I just happen to take that technique from psychology and, of course, formulate it, put it in a way that can make sense for all of you. And it's called the self-alignment method. It's really quite simple. Self-alignment. So what is it really designed to do? Well, it's designed to help people like you and I build emotional resilience, foster more self-awareness, and create some actionable steps towards personal growth and, of course, well-being in your life. So let's break it all down. I want you to understand that it's going to help you. It's actually going to help you. The very first exercise of the self-alignment method is what I call the kind mirror exercise. The kind mirror. Think of it that way. So why is it a mirror? Because you actually are going to be taking a moment to reflect. So the first question is, if a friend was thinking or feeling the same way, what would you give them in terms of insight? If a friend were thinking or feeling the same way, what insight would you give them? Just take a moment and write down your response and reflect on whether that advice applies to you. Now, the purpose of this one is it helps you break through the self-critical thinking. And the whole point is leveraging the kind aspect of who you are and leveraging your own wisdom that's there. It's the kindness you naturally extend to other people and maybe even the wisdom you extend to other people. That's the purpose of it. The next one is really the happiness blueprint, which is a lot of fun. So the question that you want to ask is, if you were happier, if I were happier, what would I be doing differently? What actions would I be taking? If I were happier, what would I be doing differently? What actions would I be taking? So just identify those actions. Identify those habits. And these things, they might include less work, more hobbies, more self-care, more exercise, less social time. Going to be more or less in terms of your action. You're either going to add or subtract something to your life. To improve your life, you either add something or you'll take something away. The purpose of this little happiness blueprint is to make incremental changes, either adding or subtracting, towards the ideal balance that you want to add into your life, or think of the things that will shape your life for the better. Now, let's talk about the emotional dial. It's kind of like a television, and you have the volume with that. So if you turn down this emotions volume just a little bit, how would you think differently? Because what happens a lot of times is we're extremely emotional, and the emotional volume of something is extremely loud and high. So it's like if you turned it down, if you turn those emotions down just by 15, 20%, how would you think differently? What do you think it would be like? And just imagine reducing the intensity of your feelings just by a fraction, just by a little bit, and write down the thoughts that you have, because it's all about reducing the level of intensity. Now, the purpose of this is really to practice what's called cognitive reframing without invalidating your emotion. You have to feel your feeling, because you have to build emotional regulation over time. Now, another one that's going to be helpful is the self-value lens. I always talk on this show about each one of us has a lens in which we see the world. So the self-value lens is how we see our own value. And the question is, if I valued myself more, how would I interact with others? If I valued myself more, how would I interact with others? The action here is identify one way that you'd act differently. Maybe it'd be setting a boundary, maybe it'd be saying no, maybe it'd be showing a little more kindness to yourself. And then what you can do is actually, once you've written it down, you could actually try practicing a small version of that behavior intentionally, with intention. Like for an entire week, you practice that from Monday to Friday, let's say. The purpose of the self-value lens really is to strengthen your self-worth by aligning your actions with your internal values. So important. The next one is the anticipation anchor. So the question is, what 3 things am I looking forward to? What 3 things am I looking forward to? And write these 3 things down and just revisit them when you feel stuck or maybe feeling a little hopeless. Add it to new events. So if you have new events that are coming up and new goals, do that. It's what are you looking forward to? And the purpose of the anticipation anchor is really to build hope, build some resilience, and shift your focus to the positive future outcome. And it's important for you to create your future in the now, in the present. And that's so important. Let's talk about the motivation map. So the motivation map is, the question is, if I were to start a healthy habit, why would I? What would be my why? What are my whys? And you know that if it's a why that belongs to somebody else, you're living according to validation. You're living to an external. It should be a why that has to do with you. So someone might say, well, why do I want to work out? I want to work out because I want to be stronger than this person. They're using an external marker, and you should ask yourself carefully why you want to do it. That has to do with you. You got to list your reasons and connect them to your personal values. And that's what I want to bring here, is that it should be connected to your personal value, and revisit that. So the purpose when you do this, when you tie your habits to intrinsic motivations rather than some extrinsic person out there, and it's intrinsic in nature. Now, when it comes to the balance check, I like to call it the balance check. I think, how do we balance responsibility and freedom? And how do I know when I'm out of balance? I'm knocked off my A game, so to speak. So kind of create a balance scale. You can draw it on a piece of paper like a little scale. You got 2 columns. You got responsibilities. You got freedoms. And just review, write down some things on both sides, and review and adjust what you need to in order to ensure that it's more harmonious on one side or harmonious on the other. This is a pretty amazing one when you do the balance check. The purpose of this one really is to foster that awareness and make adjustments and maintain a life that's going to involve some fulfillment and some sustainable lifestyle. Now, the self-alignment method, you're going to choose 1 or 2 of these a day based on your current needs. You journal your responses, and you're going to revisit them and reinforce any habits that are necessary. So what this is going to do is really help you reconnect to your values and create some actionable steps towards change. And that is it for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and take care.